Yeah. So, in case you guys haven't heard, Hurricane Milton's hit Florida. It has been like predicted to be one of the most serious storms of the season, if not ever. Why? Because, well, for one, they have an absolute incompetent, racist, crypto fascist jackass for a governor who would gladly sacrifice the lives of every working class person in his state so that places like Miami, Tampa, etc., working class Black and Latino neighborhoods, working class white neighborhoods even, can be swallowed up by developers and turned into casinos and Airbnbs and all other types of things of that nature. So, yeah. Why is it Ron DeSantis doing shit? Because he doesn't give a shit. And yes, I'm eating. Deal with it.
Good afternoon.
Never have I met somebody that looks as evil as this man does. Like this man, you could tell just by looking at him that he has absolutely not a single good bone, not a single bone of goodwill in his body. Hello, BRG. Watch from Orlando. Oh, you're definitely a brave person. The electricity hasn't gone out yet? Based.
We are bracing for.
I'm not going to lie. If I was about to go through one of the most horrible hurricanes in human history, I would not be watching a live stream. I would probably be hurt. Well, I was going to say huddled in a basement, but Florida don't have basements. And see, that's my Midwest brain talking. You hide in a basement during a tornado. You don't hide in the basement during a hurricane because, for one, they don't build hurricanes. They don't build fucking basements in places like Florida or Louisiana because all they'll do is flood even when it's not a hurricane. But yeah, a basement is a horrible place to be in the middle of an event that could lead to massive flooding. I think I saw 8 to 12-foot storm surge. So yeah, you don't want to be driving in this shit. You don't want to even be walking through this shit. You do hide. You will die if you hide in the basement during a flood. See, my Midwest brain. There actually was a giant flood in St. Louis the year before I was born in 1993. Yeah, there was a massive flood. It actually swept away a whole town. As a matter of fact, I think a guy ended up in prison for causing a catastrophe because he fucked up the levees and it ended up sweeping away a whole town. So the guy's sitting up in prison because he caused a catastrophe during the 93 flood. Do I know Cody B at SDO DSA? Do I know anyone from UAW Local 2250? I do know Cody. Yes, I just saw them. They were at the DSA drop-in that I attended. Really, really good discussion. It is Moron DeSantis.
Major impacts from Hurricane Milton. It is going to hit.
I'm surprised you allowed a sign language interpreter. Wouldn't sign language interpretation be too woke for this guy?
The western part of the state, most likely by tonight around 11, midnight, early.
Well, he is Italian, so maybe he likes the hand gesture.
Morning on Thursday has actually picked up some speed. So just know that we are less than 24 hours out from a major impact. Actually, probably less than 12 hours out. So that's going to happen. There's a lot that's been going on. One of the things that we have done.
Wow, no shit. There's a lot going on. Thank you, dumbass. You've definitely earned your place as governor of one of the greatest states in the union. Actually, Florida's a shithole, but that doesn't mean Florida is a shithole, but that doesn't mean everybody there deserves to drown.
To prepare for the storm is what we've done in every storm since I've been governor, but we're doing it in the most robust way we've ever done it. And that is pre-stage all these power resources. You see these linemen that are behind me. This is one of the processing sites here in Lake City for Florida Power and Light. We've had linemen come from all over the continental United States California, people are coming. Others have
Worker solidarity.
come. So we will have over 50,000 linemen that are pre-staged in the state of Florida. As soon as the storm passes, they are going to go to work. And look,
Floridians can learn a thing or two about building houses from the North Central Vietnamese that have been dealing with annual storms, monsoons, since antiquity. That is true. Aren't stilt houses a big thing up there? I know somewhere in Vietnam, I don't know if it's the Mekong Delta, but somewhere they build houses on stilts.
power and light. We've had linemen come from all over the continental United States. California, people are coming. Others have come. So we will have.
This is one of the mutual aid networks that you can donate to, Mutual Aid Disaster Relief. I'm actually going to be possibly, hopefully, doing a charity stream for them next Wednesday to help the various areas that they deploy people to. But horizontalists, I think they're anarchists, but regardless of who they are, they do good work. I think I'm highly recommended. So our national network is made up of many eco-activists, social justice activists, global justice activists, street medics, herbalists, permaculturalists, mutual aid organizers, Black liberation organizers, community organizers, and others who are actively organizing around supporting disaster services in a spirit of mutual aid and solidarity. So the thing with the Red Cross and other similar organizations is that, one, the Red Cross literally steals a lot of the donations. Like, a lot of these mainstream charities are like this. Like, they basically take the money that you donate to them, and I guarantee you, like 90% of it goes directly to the pockets of the people who run the Red Cross. So a lot of corruption, a lot of self-serving behavior, very little of this reaches the masses. This is a decentralized network across the so-called United States, defined by the character and creativity of a multitude of communities and drawn together by our collective commitment to stand in solidarity with those impacted by disasters and turn the tide in favor of climate justice. So really, really good. This is merging mutual aid with political work, which a lot of people fail at. They seem to be doing this very well. We build our network through education and action, valuing both collective decision-making and autonomy. So there's no dictators, or if this is my money, I decide where it goes. The decisions are made collectively, as they should be, in concert with the masses. We are deeply moved by the Black Panther survival programs, which serve the aim of satisfying immediate needs while simultaneously raising people's consciousness. We uplift and support the efforts of frontline communities leading their own recoveries in the wake of visible crisis moments and the invisible ongoing disasters of capitalism, colonization, resource extraction, gendered violence, and white supremacy, among other forms of domination. Rooted in our history and experiences of social movement organizing, we see our disaster relief work in the context of social struggle and believe that we must simultaneously address people's immediate self-determined needs for survival and organize for fundamental shifts in the way we relate to each other and the way in which we relate to the earth. So really, really good. Really, really good organization. Highly recommend you guys check them out. And hopefully I will be doing a stream with some very special, in a good way, guests next Wednesday. Of course, anything could happen, but were I you, I would clear your calendar for Wednesday.
Linemen.
Now back to the dumbass.
That are pre-staged in the state of Florida. As soon as the storm passes, they are going to go to work. And look, if you are in the path of this storm, you are most likely going to lose power. So just prepare for that. Know that that's something that's likely to happen. If you are going to use a generator, make sure you're using it properly. Do not run your generator inside your home.
A lot of people still have to be told this. I actually saw out from the last hurricane, like, this chick was literally running a generator inside her house. For one, when your house floods, you got to be electrocuted. And for two, Generators work with gasoline, and gasoline burning creates what? Carbon monoxide. What happens when you inhale carbon dioxide? Carbon monoxide, I'm sorry. Don't run a generator inside your house. Listen to the dumbass. Not quite stilt houses. Those are common in mountainous areas, but the ground floors are built to be easy to evacuate water, and building materials are water resistant. So that's dope. Learn from Vietnam in housing construction and many other things like how to make a revolution.
Generator must be operated outside your home. Keep it away from any door or window. But all these folks are going to be brought to bear to be able to get the power back on as soon as humanly possible. We just did Hurricane Helene. That was 2.4 million restorations, as fast as it's ever been done in the history, I think, probably of all hurricanes in the U.S.
Really? Also, Osterbot, I don't know how to pronounce your name. I'm sorry, comrade, but Osterbot is actually in the process of drawing me a new profile picture for my Twitter and various other social media sites that I use. So if you need something drawn, he is actually a very, very good artist. So highly recommend you hit him up on Twitter and give the comrade some work. Living in America is expensive.
This one coming on the heels of Helene, where you still have hundreds of thousands of people out of power in other parts of the country, like North Carolina and Georgia. You have a lot of linemen who are working in those areas. So the fact that we got over 50,000, that in and of itself is a big deal, but especially considering that you have a lot of people that are still at work. And
yeah, because the Vietnamese communists actually stayed in Vietnam. You can learn a lot by a person about whether or not they will flee their country for political reasons because they're afraid of communists taking over. Like those people that were like the Vietnamese diaspora in the United States is by and large descended from people who fled South Vietnam in 1975. I'm actually reading a book about it called Fall of Saigon, the short end to a long war, or something like that. But it's by a CBS journalist, David Butler. And yeah, it was wild. You literally have people robbing their own people. And after they got done robbing their own people, they ended up coming to the United States to invest the money that they had stolen from their own people in pizza parlors and video stores and stuff like that. So yeah, comprador bourgeoisie wannabes. Not very good people. And there was actually I think this was in the late 80s, but there was a giant fight because this dude I think it was Irvine, California, somewhere in SoCal, but he was flying the Vietnamese flag with the the yellow star on a red background. And he also had a picture of Ho Chi Minh. The guy wasn't even a communist. He was just proud to be Vietnamese. And that was the flag that they used. And like him or not, Ho Chi Minh was the guy that guided Vietnam, the liberation. So you're thinking, okay, cool. I'm proud of my Vietnamese heritage. And literally all of those former Arvins, all of those former people who had worked for these various military dictators in South Vietnam before it was destroyed by the righteous forces of the People's Army of Vietnam, they went hog ass wild. They were literally threatening to murder this guy because he displayed the real flag of Vietnam. I'm sorry, but that yellow flag with the 3 red stripes, that is the flag of a defeated regime. South Vietnam lost because once the Americans took the money away and once they took the soldiers away, it couldn't stand because it was a shitty, corrupt, horrible regime that didn't give a fuck about the people. All they cared about was how much they could steal from the people. So, yeah, a lot of those people ended up over here, and yes, they are extremely reactionary. If I recall correctly, every Vietnamese person in the United States that has been in Congress has been a Republican. Of course, not saying that being a Democrat is any better, but the Democrats at least pose as the party of progress in this country. Vietnam is a revisionist state and a U.S. neo-colony. I don't see how that contributes to the discussion, but go off. I'm not even saying that I disagree with you. Vietnam does have issues with revisionism, but come on, man. This is why people don't like Maoists. It's like, oh, they're revisionist. Okay, so would you rather them still have South Vietnam? Would you rather them continue to be occupied by the United States like South Korea is? Let people choose their own path of development. If they want revisionism, more fucking power to them. When they get tired of revisionism, then they will institute a proper communist government, I suppose. What does us denouncing various governments from the United States do?
Aftermath Helene in these other states, it's really, really remarkable. So you will likely lose power if you're in the path of this storm. Just be prepared for that. Have a plan to deal with it. But just know that we've got huge numbers of assets that are here, ready to go, and they are going to go as soon as it's safe to do so. The other thing that is worth pointing out, it's a lot of focus, understandably, on the west coast of Florida. That's what's going to see the really significant storm surge, particularly where the storm makes landfall and just south of the eye wall is going to likely lead to the most significant storm surge. The way these storms go, they go counterclockwise. If you're on the north side of the storm on the west coast, it may be that pushes water away from the coast. That's possible depending on how the storm goes in.
I was watching this video right before Milton hit, like literally all of the water came out of the fucking bay. Like it was fucking shocking. I'm trying to see if I can find it. But it was fucking wild. I think this is it. Let's see.
And you'll remember those images, Hallie, of boats. I mean, yachts, commercial boats that were floating above.
See, I could not. I could not do this. I cannot live in a place where this happens frequently. I thought you would be against the Vietnamese revolution because of Mao. Why would I be against anybody's revolution? Like, do you guys have any idea how fucked up Vietnam was under first the French, then under the puppet regime that was backed up by the United States? Like, you literally had people that were selling their kids to local warlords for slavery. Well, no, that was China. But it was not a good place to live. You ever heard of strategic hamlets? They literally dragged people out of the ancestral villages where their ancestors were buried and forced them to live in what were basically little mini concentration camps because they didn't want the people that lived in the villages to join the Viet Cong. They could literally pick you up, force you out of your neighborhood, force you out of your village, and make you go live in a fucking concentration camp. The government was corrupt even by Southeast Asian neo-colonial standards. Like, these people, when they heard that Saigon, now Ho Chi Minh City, when they found out that it was surrounded by the National Liberation Front troops and the People's Army of Vietnam troops, these people literally fought each other. They shot each other to get the first thing smoking. All of the cities that were that the Southern troops are running away from, Da Nang, Ban My Tho, all these places, they didn't even try to fight. They were cowards. All Comprador forces are cowards. They stole whatever they could from the regular people, and then all of them piled into Saigon. And then when the North was about to take Saigon and unify and liberate the country, they all beat each other up, shot each other so that they could steal helicopters and planes to go fly out into the fucking South China Sea and land on American aircraft carriers with all the gold and art and money and other shit they had stolen. Why would I be opposed to a revolution that puts an end to that? No country should be divided in two. What are my thoughts on Mao's foreign policy regarding Vietnam? Like pretty much everything else in his later life, it was oriented around fucking with the Soviet Union. That was why he ended up supporting Pol Pot, because Pol Pot was an enemy of the Soviet Union. The Khmer Rouge was an enemy of the Soviet Union, but the Khmer Rouge was also a enemy of Vietnam. Like, these people would literally sneak across the border and massacre Vietnamese civilians. Their goal was to reconstitute an ancient fucking Khmer kingdom. That was what they wanted. So it was revanchist bullshit. It led to them massacring innocent fucking people. But now his whole thing was fuck the Soviet Union. Let's see how I can fuck the Soviet Union. That's why he ended up supporting the bad guys in Angola. He ended up supporting the bad guys in Rhodesia. He ended up supporting the bad guys in the Philippines. And of course, he was obligated because otherwise he'd have been outed as a massive fucking hypocrite. So both the Soviets and the Chinese gave aid to Vietnam. But and Ho Chi Minh was like, you guys are fucking stupid. We're fighting a war down here. We don't have time for your squabbling. Ho Chi Minh was a centrist, but he was a good centrist. You're very welcome, loud chunk. American-funded genocide, environmental collapse, and Christo-fascism is both on the rise and ongoing, but both of everyone's focus is on the pseudo-political fanfare. I have such disdain for all this election season bullshit. The ruling class is rushing us on a path towards extinction, and people are still thinking hurricanes are fabricated. Nobody with a working brain thinks that hurricanes are fabricated. Like, you cannot take people that think that the weather can be controlled seriously. Like, those people are dumb. Those are fringe, not even political actors. Okay, they're just fringe conspiracy theorists and idiots. It's very easy to make fun of them, but we should not make the mistake of acting like their views are shared by a majority of the American people. Because if their views were shared by a majority of the American people, then yes, we would be cooked. But we are not cooked. Like nihilism and doomerism, that is not how communists behave. Communists have an eternal faith in the people. We are anthro-optimists. We believe that human beings are eventually going to get it together. If we don't believe that humans can eventually get our shit together, then what are we doing? What are we doing? Are we just a bunch of hipsters just sitting around? You're dumb. Like, that's not how communists relate to the people, especially the working people. Yes, a lot of working class people do believe very stupid things, but it's our job to educate them. So before you screenshot something, or before you share a stupid tweet made by an average, ordinary working class person, or before you come home and text your little group chat or post in your Twitter echo chamber, like, have you done something to educate somebody today? Because that's the main thing that the American working class needs. They need organization and they need education. That's all. And yes, conditions will worsen and contradictions will sharpen. Also, if you need something drawn, I'm going to say it again, have this guy do it. If you're not a guy, I'm sorry, Osterbot. But that's just my, again, Midwestern thing. I call everybody guys. Let's see what else is going on.
Of electric.
But yeah, going back to what I was really saying, I cannot live. Look at those fucking trees, man. I couldn't live in a place like this. This was at 4:12 p.m. my time. Like, I cannot live in a fucking place like this.
Hours and just sort of careening their way through the streets of Fort Myers Beach. All of that happens. You know, I remember walking around the blocks and blocks of devastated homes that were just piles of rubble and iron and metal and like 8-foot-high sand dunes. That's the concern right now. If there's any good news in all of this, Hurricane Helene a couple of weeks ago definitely scared some folks there. They got, I think, 6 feet of storm surge. Water was in their home. Sewage in some cases was inside their homes. They're rebuilding these houses and now got to go in some cases.
Raw fucking sewage. Can you imagine? Okay, you got your house half rebuilt. You got your house almost done, almost ready. And here comes another hurricane. It's like, I don't know. And like people will be like, oh, why do you still live in Florida? Why haven't you evacuated? Look, put yourself in a working class person's shoes, okay? You live in a fucking trailer. You work at the Dollar Tree. How much do you take home every check? $650, $700? Okay. Do you really think that, okay, oh yeah, you've got kids. Do you really think that you're going to be able to afford, first, gas to drive? Florida is a big-ass state. Okay. You really think that you're going to be able to afford gas, which of course has escalated in price because of what's going on, because of the hurricane? Do you really think that you're going to be able to buy food to make this trip? Food not just for you, but for your 2 or 3 kids. Then where the fuck are you going? Where are you going? Savannah, Georgia, which is also on an ocean. Atlanta, Georgia. Like, the further you want to go, the more gas you got to buy. And then when you get there, unless you've got somebody to stay with, and even if you do have somebody to stay with, okay, what are you going to do? Cram into your brother's 1-bedroom apartment? Oh yeah, Atlanta hasn't necessarily had the best go of it either over the past couple of weeks. There was a giant chemical fire there, remember? So you escaped the hurricane, but now you're breathing fucking chlorine fumes. And then if you don't have family in Atlanta or any of these other cities up there, Macon, Augusta, whatever, you got to pay for a hotel. Guess what? Everybody from Florida that was in the path of this thing fled up to Georgia too. You know what that means? Hotel rooms are going to be expensive, or there might not be any available. So it's not just getting in your car, driving somewhere, and then buying food, buying a hotel, because what if you can't afford it? Many of these people that are stuck there cannot afford it. The rich, they're fine. They've got a house in Atlanta. It's a fucking day trip for them. Same thing in New Orleans. All the rich people that lived in all those little suburbs, they were fine. They could hop in a fucking car, or shit, they could catch a plane. Let's go take a little vacation. And then their houses are built on the high ground anyways. Whenever a city is built around a huge body of water, they always put the poor in the areas that flood. They always put the poor people, the working class, the people that they don't even want alive in the first place, let's be honest, they always put them in the places that flood, the shitty places. Meantime, they've got houses built on rock. They've got houses built on the high ground. That is genocide. That is eugenics. They put poor people on shitty plots of land because they don't want the poor to be alive. They want just enough poor people alive to exploit, to continue to fund their lifestyle, to continue to make their bank accounts and their checkbooks bigger. So we have to consider these disasters in this context. If anyone's looking for proof that the government doesn't care about us, consider that if they did, we would have seen mass evacuations from the state organized by the state. That's what would have happened in a socialist country. Instead, you get discounted hotel rooms. And the discount ain't even that big. These people do not give a fuck. They don't care. That's why, again, I laugh at these people that are constantly talking about these elections as if they mean anything, because they don't. The same shit would happen under Kamala Harris. The same shit that's happening under DeSantis would happen under their Democrat governor. The same shit that's happening under Biden is going to happen under either Trump or Harris come November. Oops.
Back to ground zero or square one. Not a good situation at all. But the shelter scenario right now, 7,000 people in this county roughly are in shelters at last check, up from 1,600 yesterday. So at least people appear to be taking the lesson.
That's right. Yeah, some of those shelters even filling up. Sam, really quickly before we let you go, just because I think people are interested in this and they want to know, you are also, and our crew, making precautions to be safe when this storm comes ashore, right?
100%. We are right near a parking garage, which has 5 or 6 levels. There would be nowhere close to any storm surge. It's not really going to be a wind event. Where we are standing right now, we are 2 minutes away from that. In no way are we in harm's way.
Sam Brock, thank you.
Well, the reporters are going to take care of themselves. Let's see how prison inmates are faring. Jailhouse Lawyer Speak says, power's out in here and the CEOs are hiding in their offices while we're left in the dark. We are shouting for meds and updates, but no one's listening. Just hold on. Just trying to hold on and hope this storm doesn't swallow us whole. Update from inside. We are currently on lockdown as Hurricane Milton barrels down on us here in Florida. Conditions are tense. Support is limited. No one is talking. You could feel the fear. Praying for safety for all inside and out there. We won't be silenced. Toilets backing up. Feces running over. We've been told we'll have to lay in it. No movement allowed. So you've got CEOs who are technically responsible for the safety and security of these for these inmates saying that, okay, you got to lay in your own fucking shit. So you're an animal. You are a pig. You have to lay in your own shit. That's how this country treats people. That's what you get.
Thank you very much. Let me bring in Jesse Kirsch, who's live for us in Sarasota now. And Jesse, This is the city that would be closest to landfall, though you saw that track now with Milton expected to go just slightly north. That means you are looking. You heard Sam talk about a big.
You know, Milton is literally my grandpa's name. That's scary.
Storm surge. You are looking at a potentially huge storm surge, 10 to 15 feet. Think about 15 feet. That's like the first story of a house. I mean, just to give people some perspective there, look around your house, right? That's like ceiling height generally. It seems like the weather's been coming in waves. It's remarkable to look at the scene behind you now because it's going to look a heck of a lot different in about 5 hours.
Yeah, and Hallie, when you talk about the storm surge potential here, especially with that slight track north, the right side of the storm is typically where we see the strongest winds, the strongest storm surge, the highest storm surge. We're looking at potentially 13 feet. That's like having multiple people stacked on top of each other. The reality is if you are caught in that storm surge, your likelihood of being able to survive it is very, very slim, if not entirely impossible. And I want to go back to where Sam is right now for a moment, Fort Myers area. I just connected with someone yesterday who I met in the aftermath of Hurricane Ian down there more than 2 years ago. And she told me she still is not back in her home from that storm more than.
So going back to the whole prison situation, because like I said, this is not the first time that this has happened. So this article was written in 2015, the Vice article. So it basically talks about how inmates were treated during the first ever mandatory evacuation of New Orleans. New Orleans gets hurricanes all the time, but like Ray Nagin, the formerly incarcerated governor of mayor of the city of New Orleans, like, okay, y'all need to go. I don't know what y'all doing, but y'all need to get out of here. So you had a sheriff who presumably evacuated himself. He said the prisoners will stay where they belong. He had generators, he said, and a loyal staff so the city's inmates would hang tight. A loyal staff. Okay, I don't give a fuck how loyal I am. Well, first of all, I won't be dumb enough to work in a jail in the first place because that's not me. I make a horrible CO. And then second of all, like, I don't give a fuck how loyal I am. I'm not working in a fucking hurricane. I'm not. I don't care how much I like my job. I am not. The day you ask me to report to work in a fucking storm like Milton or Katrina, or fuck that, any storm, I don't have to go. You do not have to go to work during a hurricane. You do not have to go to work in a massive fucking blizzard. Nobody can compel you to do that. Okay? Like, my self-preservation comes first. I'm not going to work in a fucking hurricane. So this dumbass talked about his loyal staff. No, fuck yourself. So who was in the Orleans Parish prison? OPP earned roughly $25 a day per prisoner from the state. So they literally pay people to lock you up. I imagine it's that your price tag will have escalated with inflation, but whatever. So New Orleans cops don't do a whole lot of catch and release. In August 20, 2005, the majority of Orleans Parish prisons, roughly 6,800 prisoners, hadn't been convicted of a serious crime. So yeah, most people in jail have not been convicted of a serious crime. When you're convicted of a serious crime, you're sent to prison. These were people who couldn't pay their traffic tickets. They were drunk tourists who'd pissed on Bourbon Street. They were kids caught smoking pot. So you have this guard. He's saying that it took 6 hours to evacuate about 300 prisoners from St. Bernard out to Orleans Parish prisoner. Okay, cool. So you took them out of the frying pan and put them in the fire. What did the sheriff say? Guzman said that in response to inmates' accounts of being mistreated, he had a 26-year-old man arrested for public intoxication. He said he was held in a cell with no ventilation and nothing to eat or drink for 4 days. You had a guard, Renard Reed, who said he was locked into the ward to prevent his desertion. And then he was ordered to the roof, given a shotgun, and he was told to shoot anybody trying to leave the flooded buildings. Reed remained stranded at the prison long after prisoners were evacuated. Ashley George, a 13-year-old girl housed at OPP's youth center, said she was moved to an adult male holding area where she spent days in water up to her neck. What did the sheriff say in response? None of it was true. Don't rely on crackheads, cowards, and criminals to say what the story is. Don't rely on crackheads, cowards, and criminals to say what the story is. And he also said that nobody died trying to escape the prison. You have inmates and guards saying that you have people that were getting heart attacks. You have people who drowned. You had people who had a diabetic stroke. This is inhumane. This is barbarous. This is Israel level shit. Well, Israel did learn from us. But yeah, the same situation is going to be repeated in Ron DeSantis' Florida. This is what our ruling class has decided will be normal. You know what else is going to happen after this hurricane? Gentrification. Here's another case study. Katrina after New Orleans after Katrina. In a 2020 study by the National Community Reinvestment Coalition, New Orleans ranked 5th in the country's 20 most gentrified cities. Before the storm hit, New Orleans was facing an affordable housing crisis. Residents who lived in a low-wage household didn't spend most of their money on housing. With the storm impacting a large portion of the city's most vulnerable communities, it made finding affordable housing in the aftermath a challenge. So you had a worse housing system than they had before Katrina. Then the money, the relief funds, what happened? Money was spent to build up neighborhoods that were already gentrifying without protecting long-term residents. So you had people that were refugees. In many cases, they couldn't even afford to move back to the city because the house is gone and they can't find another one. The same shit is going to happen in Florida.
More housing insecurity,
and more opportunity to further segregate the city.
The gentrification is owning profit.
Before Katrina, you could get a house around here for $200,000, and that was expensive. But now everything is full and up.
Gentrification process is already pricing this out.
I just want to see New Orleans stay New Orleans.
Gentrification has swept across America, from Brooklyn, New York to Oakland, California. Communities that were historically Black have made a dramatic shift in demographics across the board. New Orleans is no different, and Katrina sped up that process.
They should never have torn it down. It was a nice place to live. My concerns are if I'm going to be able to be one of the ones, because I'm on disability.
In a city of majority renters, prior to the storm, those hoping to return home say they found themselves shut out or facing housing costs that were out of reach.
That we missed an opportunity post-Katrina because there was no comprehensive plan about how we would ensure that renters had housing options. And instead, we spent the money to build up neighborhoods that were already gentrifying without protecting long-term residents.
Residents like Zena Moses, a self-proclaimed homegrown New Orleanian who says moving back to the city after the storm was troubling, now staying in New Orleans is presenting even more of a challenge.
When I was trying to find a place, it was just, okay, I'm on assistance, that have a stigma all by itself. People just like, I don't want to rent to anybody with a voucher. So I'm like, well, look, I have money saved. It shouldn't be as hard for me to find because a lot of people in my position don't even have any savings. So I should be able to find something. Month 1 passed, month 2 passed, and now I'm sweating bricks.
So you have people who love New Orleans, right? They love New Orleans because of people like Ms. Moses. They love New Orleans because of the culture of New Orleans. They love the second lines. Like every major funeral there has a fucking band. They love the jazz bands that just wander the streets of the French Quarter. They love that shit. But you move down there, you price people like Zena Moses out of her neighborhood. That culture is going to disappear. If the dude in the band marching down the street behind the funeral, if he can't afford to pay rent on his fucking shotgun house, he's going to move out. He's not going to be able to afford it. There, no more jazz funerals because you drove out all the musicians. They can't afford to stay there no more. Or you've made them get second jobs just to be able to afford a shitty room. And now they don't have time to play no more. That's how culture dies. That is how culture dies. So you move to a place and you end up killing the culture that brought you there in the first place. It's a never-ending cycle. Well, socialism can end it because socialism ensures that the people, artists and such, have decent places to live. They don't have to work their fingers to the bone until they're tired and they don't have time to make any new music because socialism takes care of the people.
It's like, okay, I can't, no one's willing to accept a voucher. The cost of living is double at this point, and my income hasn't doubled. I've been doing music for 17 years, so that itself has an income stamina. My money kind of comes based on what the tourism is doing, and being a single mom, I don't have the resources, so to say, to really.
Well, quote, we don't need gun control, we need hurricane control.
Pay the top-notch rent that was really being offered after Katrina.
Stories like Zena's, unfortunately, aren't unique for some lifelong New Orleanians. Before the storm, renters with severe housing cost burden stood at 23% in New Orleans. In 2022, it spiked to 35%, and a city where the median income only nudged a couple $1,000s over the past few years.
We're just not put in position. We don't have a even fighting playing field to compete with this.
But there is a contingent of homeowners who do have the resources, and they found Hurricane Katrina to be the perfect housing opportunity.
Instead of gentrification, I see myself as like an artification. We're the first wave.
Man, fuck you. And of course, like this is, if I were to draw a picture of a gentrifier, I would draw this dude. He's got the fucking receding hairline. He's got the fucking hipster glasses. He's got the smug, self-satisfied expression. Yeah. I don't want to hear what he has to say. I don't care what he has to say. So yeah, that's what's happening. That's what our ruling class has decided how we'll live. That's how we got to live. That's us. It won't stop until we stop it. Let's see what's going on with the Milton. So shitload of tornadoes. Absolute shitload of tornadoes. Like more tornadoes than I've ever seen. You've got knee-deep water in Punta Gorda, wherever that is. You've got, again, massive. Its reception is shitty. So, really, really powerful storm. A hotel parking lot in Punta Gorda, Florida has been flooded and cars are partially submerged as rain continues to fall. Triangle DSA and North Carolina DSA are leading the way on Helene alongside mutual aid disaster relief. And like I said earlier, I'm doing a, well, hopefully, if everything shakes out correctly, working with a couple other comrades, and we're going to try to put together a charity stream for mutual aid disaster relief. So keep an eye on that and clear your calendar for Wednesday. Yeah, that's gross. Those cars are going to be totaled.
Live streaming? No, live streams in the car.
It's like I'm in a fucking hurricane. Yeah, flash flood emergency in Tampa. Yeah, that's what's going on. So what are we going to do about it? Well, you can definitely help out in mutual aid disaster relief. You can, if you're down there, you can work with your neighbors and your comrades and your co-workers to ensure that everybody's accounted for, make sure that nobody's lost. Jesus Christ, Anderson Cooper's old ass is still on TV.
This is the winds have really picked up. The water's really moving. You can get a sense of just how fast the wind is moving there. You can see it in the light there. It is now just whipping off the Manatee River. It's coming in from kind of the north, I guess, northeast, and the water now is really starting to pour over. If you look at the ground, whoa, okay, that wasn't good. We'll probably go inside shortly, but you can see the amount of water here on the ground.
You might want to go inside now, Daddy. I do not have a crush on Anderson Cooper.
This is water from the Manatee River It's also water coming from the land as well. But as I don't know if you can turn, Neil, take a look at this. There's a bridge over there. I've seen some emergency vehicles going across the bridge over the last hour or so. It looks like there's one about to come across. But you can really get a sense of just how much that water is.
Also, that water is not clean. That water's not clean. There's flesh-eating bacteria in that water. There's shit and piss in that water. There's dead bodies in that water. There's dead animals in that water. That's a recipe for disease. Yeah. Literal flesh-eating bacteria. So you're going to have infections. You're going to have amputations. You're going to have Middle Ages diseases. That's why they always tell you, like, don't go out swimming or don't go out wading in floodwaters to take a fucking selfie for Instagram, because that shit is dangerous. So, again, why are these things happening with increased frequency? Why is Danny Anderson Cooper out there getting swung hither and yon by the wind? Because this government, this world, is not built for us. They don't care about people like us, working class people, queer people, socialists. They don't care, okay? They do not. They don't care if every trailer park in the state of Florida gets swept into the Gulf or swept out to the Atlantic. I keep saying this. They do not care. So to dispel all confusion by your mind, from your mind, okay? When you want to ask, whenever you feel the need to ask, why is this happening? Why are we left to drown? Where is our relief? The answer is simply they do not give a fuck. They've evacuated. These people have helicopters. Florida has a shitload of billionaires. You think Trump is going through this? Fuck no. Trump is sitting in New York somewhere. They do not care about you. They only want enough working class people alive that they can cow and make complacent so that they can continue to live the lifestyle that they live. All the rest of us can drown, be electrocuted, be swept out to sea, never to be heard from again. If you think your life and the lives of everybody you have ever known is worth more than that, then you need to join DSA. You need to study revolutionary theory and practice. You need to put it into practice. Help out mutual aid disaster relief and help out your comrades. See you soon. Stay safe.